Presentation note of the organization. 1. Presentation. The Dynamics of Peasant Women for the Protection of Children and the Environment, DFPPE, is a non-governmental organization under Congolese law, based in Goma, North Kivu, with an extension office in Kolwezi, in the province of Lualaba. DFPPE intervenes in the humanitarian context by providing assistance to local communities affected by natural disasters, conflicts, and other distress situations in the Democratic Republic of Congo. The organization works in several areas, including food security and nutrition, protection and education, health, as well as access to water, hygiene, and sanitation. Its main objective is to relieve suffering and improve the living conditions of people affected by its interventions, while supporting them towards sustainable development. To achieve its objectives, DFPPE is implementing a strategy focused on the development of lasting partnerships with various donors, humanitarian and development actors, operating both in the Democratic Republic of Congo and internationally. Thanks to these partnerships, DFPPE succeeds in implementing humanitarian assistance and socio-economic development activities for displaced people, returnees, host communities, vulnerable children, the elderly and all people living in vulnerable situations, in order to provide solutions to their distress. As part of the implementation of its interventions, DFPPE adopts a participatory, collaborative and inclusive approach. It actively involves all stakeholders, including donors, beneficiary communities, local authorities, community leaders, community-based associations, local and community structures, women's organizations and collectives, as well as the various international and national humanitarian partners operating in the intervention areas. This approach aims to improve the efficiency, quality, transparency, and accountability of its actions. DFPPE has a regional coordination office in Goma, in the North Kivu province, and an extension office in Kolwezi, in the Lualaba province. In addition, it has local offices in the different territories where it carries out its activities. Masisi Office, Center. Kiwanja Office in Rutshuru. Kitshanga Office, Massachusetts CES Bureau sunt bien équips en mobilier, matériel de bureau et informatique, avec un accès à l'Internet. The organization benefits from qualified and competent staff, dedicated to achieving its objectives. Currently, the DFPPE team is made up of 18 agents, including 10 women, who work together to provide concrete and sustainable solutions to distress situations encountered by local communities. 2. Vision. The Dynamics of Peasant Women for the Protection of Children and the Environment, DFPPE, aspires to transform conflict and post-conflict zones into spaces of resilience and sustainable development. The organization aims to provide solutions for a better future by improving livelihoods, strengthening protection of vulnerable communities, ensuring access to inclusive and quality education for all children, facilitating access to health care, and promoting socio-economic and ecological development. Even in often difficult conditions, DFPPE supports the complex process of change and reforms necessary to achieve these goals. His unwavering commitment and ability to mobilize resources and stakeholders enable it to effectively respond to the needs of local communities, while working for sustainable and inclusive development. 3. Assignment. The mission of the Dynamics of Peasant Women for the Protection of Children and the Environment, DFPPE, is to reduce the mortality rate caused by crises such as armed conflicts, hunger, malnutrition, and epidemics. To achieve this goal, DFPPE is committed to strengthening the resilience of communities by implementing programs that increase their capacity to cope with and recover from crises. This includes training and support in risk management and disaster preparedness. DFPPE also supports stabilization processes by providing the resources needed to restore and improve the livelihoods of affected populations. This may include agricultural projects, food security initiatives and local economic development programs. Additionally, the organization provides immediate humanitarian assistance and medical care to people affected by crises. This includes distributing food, providing clean water, providing primary health care, and combating malnutrition. Promoting inclusive and quality education for children is another priority of DFPPE, as is strengthening protection mechanisms for the most vulnerable groups, including women and children. Finally, DFPPE works closely with local communities, authorities, non-governmental organizations, international agencies, and donors to coordinate efforts and maximize the impact of its interventions. By adopting a holistic and participatory approach, DFPPE strives to create a safe and stable environment, conducive to sustainable development and the improvement of the living conditions of populations affected by crises. 4. Goals. The main objective of the Dynamics of Peasant Women for the Protection of Children and the Environment, DFPPE, is to sustainably improve the living conditions of populations affected by humanitarian crises. The specific objectives of the organization are: 1. Fight against undernutrition, restore food security in areas of operation by promoting agriculture, fishing, and livestock breeding. 2. Fight against malnutrition, implement nutritional programs to prevent and treat malnutrition. 3. Fight poverty, implement initiatives to improve livelihoods and reduce poverty. 4. Fight against waterborne diseases, improve access to drinking water and promote hygiene practices to prevent waterborne diseases. 5. Fight against illiteracy, implement educational programs to reduce the illiteracy rate. 6. Promote access to inclusive education, ensure that all children, without distinction, have access to quality education. 7. Promote access to health care for all, improve access to primary and specialized health services. 8. Strengthen protection mechanisms, put in place structures and systems to protect vulnerable people, particularly women and children. 9. Promote environmental protection, encourage ecological and sustainable practices to protect and preserve the environment. 10. Fight against sexual violence and gender-based violence, implement awareness, prevention, and support programs for victims of sexual violence and gender-based violence. By engaging in these areas, DFPPE works to create safer and more dignified living conditions for communities affected by humanitarian crises. 5. Areas of intervention. DFPPE operates in the following areas: food security, water, hygiene and sanitation, health, nutrition, education, logistics, AME and shelters, mediation and peaceful resolution of conflicts, protection of refugees, displaced persons, returnees, repatriates, environment and sanitation, protection of the disabled person, child protection, community empowerment and recovery of youth and women. 6. Guidelines and methodological approach. As part of the implementation of this activity, DFPPE has developed a methodological orientation and approach that can enable it to achieve the expected results and respond effectively to the needs of beneficiaries. This is how the following steps served as guidance: mapping of intervention areas, identification of priority areas based on humanitarian alerts shared by the North Kivu Humanitarian Coordination Office, OCHA. Contextual analysis and needs assessment mission, context analysis and needs assessment of vulnerable communities, particularly displaced people, returnees, and host families. Contact with local authorities and stakeholders, engagement with local authorities, representatives of the National Commission for Refugees, CNR, representatives of displaced people and returnees, trader committees, and the Congo Business Federation. Identification and targeting of beneficiaries, selection of beneficiaries based on pre-established vulnerability criteria. Analysis of the security context, collaboration with the authorities in charge of security, FARDC and PNC, to assess the security context and avoid any harm during activities. Selection of economic operators, identification and selection of traders involved in the marketing of items at fairs. Production of coupons, creation of coupons with a monetary value for each beneficiary of the project. Identification of secure areas and sites, selection of secure locations for carrying out activities. Distribution of tokens, delivery of tokens to identified beneficiaries. Beneficiary awareness, information for beneficiaries on humanitarian standards of accountability, inclusion and prevention of sexual abuse and exploitation. Organization of on-site activities, implementation of activities on sites, with the participation of all stakeholders, respecting humanitarian principles, humanity, independence, neutrality, impartiality, and the principle of doing no harm. These orientations and methodological approaches have enabled DFPPE to effectively respond to the needs of vulnerable populations, particularly in terms of essential household items for the displaced. This work experience enriches the organization, and it intends to further develop this methodology through partnerships with various donors, in order to assist vulnerable and distressed communities in displacement areas in North Kivu. Vulnerable and in distress in displacement areas in North Kivu.